Hello and welcome to another disassembly tutorial. In this video I am showing you how to take apart the Canon 100D. So for the next 1 hour roughly I will disassemble completely the camera. As you may notice, I am doing a voiceover into the original recording. I had too much background noise, so I decided to start all over. Very important step when you are about to take your camera apart is to take the battery out. So next step is to take the battery door. I do recommend to follow these steps that I'm doing in order to reach certain parts on your camera. Otherwise you might work double, or even you might risk to create some damage. So here I'm taking the side of the camera off. Remember to keep track of your screws. For this, for example, in this part, this side, the screws are in different length, but there are screws in different with different kind of thread and different color. So be sure you know where you put your screws in order to put them back the same screws, and avoid to if you put the wrong screw in the wrong place, definitely you risk to create a damage. So as you can see, I'm using a plastic tool and not a metal tool in order to take that side off. This is the cover, the rubber cover. The next step is to I am taking the back of the camera off. There are different screws over here and quite lots of screws, to be honest. But again, you have to be careful and keep track of your position, of the position of your screws. These two screws have the same length, both of them, but definitely the others are different. There's another screw hidden behind this rubber part. There is no need to take the rubber off completely, just peeling off the top part to take off the screw. So on the side we have another two screw, but there's a plastic cap. You have to be very careful, otherwise you're gonna damage this plastic. I don't know why Canon decided to use this kind of cover. To me, it was will be enough if they were adding some black screws. Maybe sort of sealing protection or whatever, in case you send the camera to them and they can see these caps are damaged or not. So we have these screws are white. They are both the same. There is another screw underneath here, as you can see, peeling off the front rubber. Sorry for the bad light. I am struggling sometimes to get the right light to where I'm working. So the next step, continuing to taking off the screws for the back. These are the last screws before taking the back of the camera off. There's another hidden screw. Yeah, it's quite strange the way they choose. Sometimes, since I'm opening for the first time this camera, some screws are really hard to take it off. So you need to create quite a lot of pushing pressure on the screw, but also you need the right screwdriver. Otherwise, definitely you're gonna damage the head of the screw. So now all the screws are off. I am taking, you must be quite careful over here because there's a flat cable that connects with the back of the camera and the PCB, the main board. So you have to do it in this way, otherwise you may risk to create some damage. As always, I do recommend to use plastic tools. Flat cables are very easy to get damaged. So on the next step, I will take some parts off from this the back of the camera. What we see here, we have the LCD driver and buttons, command mini board. So I will start with taking off the top buttons that stays on the back. You have to be very careful. The flat cable, it is not that friendly, user friendly. The screws here are both screws the same length. So this is be careful when you have to take this off. As you can see, I have the right tool for this, and this is the top buttons flat cable, the rubber. So if you have problems with your buttons on the top, reaching this point, you can check the rubber state. Most of the time the rubber gets damaged. So next I am gonna take off the LCD driver. In order to reach the board, you need to open this plate, take out this plate, and disconnect the 2 points. One is for the touch screen, and this one is for the LCD. So if you need to replace the LCD, this is the way to do it. The touch, you're gonna need to take the panel off, the glass off, which I'm gonna show you a bit later. So this is the way to take your replace your LCD. In order to replace the LCD the same, you have to take completely the screen, the glass in the front of the cover. Next step is to take the driver, LCD driver, by taking these 2 screws. So you have to hold your pushed on the driver, because behind the buttons, and between the buttons and the driver, there is a spring that pushes on the selector of the back. As you can see, the spring, and I'm disconnecting the flat cable, and this is the driver. So if you need to replace the driver now, you know, and this whole part, I do recommend to instead of taking the only the flat cable and then replace it, if you can find as it is, very probably the price will be the same. So these are the buttons, and the middle selector when where with the setting. This last bit is the memory card. The memory card light is just a piece of plastic. If you ever need to replace or whatever. So this is it. I'm gonna show you how to take your glass out, but I'm not gonna take the glass completely. I'm just showing you it's enough to push on the LCD, and everything will pop up. I'm not gonna go further with this, because in that case I'm gonna need to replace the double tape, which I don't want to mess around with. This video, it's only for showing you how to reach certain parts. So where it's easy to take it to disassemble and reassemble, I'm more than happy to show you. But where it requires more time and more energy, it's I do prefer to explain rather than going forward with the disassembly. Okay, so now we reached the front cover of the camera. Again, in order to go to the next step and reaching the motherboard, you have to do it in this way. Otherwise, it's very easy to create a damage to a flat cable or connection. So I took the 2 screws on the top. There's another screw on the side. Again, all these screws are different. The one on the top, the 2 ones are both the same. The one on the side is different. These others are different too. I think they're all the same length, the one on the bottom. Okay, so in order to take the front out, I'm taking the last screw. It's quite hard, this one. If you use the wrong screwdriver, you're gonna damage the head of the screws. So the last part, in order to take out the cover, front cover, we need to push. As you can see, just grab that part, and now the front of the camera is off. Very important point is to discharge the capacitor. I'm using a I think it's 20 ohms resistance with 5 watts, 20 ohms resistance. As you can see, I'm disconnecting all the necessary cables to take off the top of the camera. In this case, I need to take off the adjustment knob, viewfinder adjustment knob. There are 2 screws on the top, on the sides. Even this one, they have different length, so be careful. Okay, so now the top, it's completely disconnected. As you can see, it comes off very easy. So I will explain you a few things over here. On the left side, we have the button, the shutter button and the dial underneath this plastic thing. Unfortunately, the top of this entry-level cameras is not one of the best to work with. The flat cable crosses all the part, so if you need to replace something, you have to replace whole of it. But I think you can. The price of the flat cable will be more or less the same as the whole top cover with the all components assembled. So if you want to replace the, let's say, the on-off power on-off button and the selector, you need to open the screw, which I'm going to show you further on. And there is not much over here but actually I don't want to take it out. I want to show you this part, and pretty much we are done over here. So by taking this screw, you take this white cover. This is for the flash. This is for the flash signal, light signal. So underneath the flat cable, you can reach the screw, and you can replace the parts if you need, the selector and the power on and off button. Okay, so let me show you how to take the flash off, at least the flash cover. From here you can open the flash, release the flash, and we have 2 screws. So now it's enough to just try to open that cover. I'm using the tool in order to reach the points. So now it's free. So if you need to replace the cover, someone asked me where he can find and how to replace the cover. So now you know how to replace the cover of your flash. Inside here, if you want to replace the flash, which I really don't like replacing the flash, I do prefer to take the whole thing and replacing the whole thing. Sometimes the price is quite the same, and if you want to take it out, you have on the side one side you have a screw, and the other side is just nothing. Once you release the screw, you can open up the flash. All right, so finally we got to the motherboard. We need to take off all the disconnect all the flat cables. Very carefully with you have to be very careful with this kind of connections. Now I'm taking off the image sensor flat cable, the one that connects with the image sensor PCB, and remember to follow the order. As you can see, the holes are different, so must be in the same position. Actually, if you try to put all the way around, it will not fit. So Canon did a smart thing. The connections on the top, the side. By the way, you have to be quite careful when you disconnect this connection, flat cable connection. Another one underneath here. That's the flat cable that connects with the power unit. And this should be the last one, still coming from the power unit. Okay, so now I'm taking the screws, the 5 screws, okay, so now the motherboard is free. So if you need to replace the motherboard, now you know. As you can see on this model, Canon decided to put the card reader directly on the PCB. This is not a good thing, because if you damage your SD card reader, you have two options. You either replace your motherboard, or you desolder the card reader, and that is not a easy job. Okay, so next is the microphone jack. Canon this time made a good thing. They decided to not attach the microphone jack on the PCB, but they make it separately. I think this due to too much damage on their preview models, and too much request of repairs. Alright, so we reached the sensor, the image sensor. As you can see, again, Canon decide to put springs to their sensors, and not any more spacers. This is a bad thing for us, because if before we were used to put the spacers in the same place, and re-get the calibration, more or less get the calibration back. Now it's without a required tool is quite impossible. Okay, so the first step is by taking that flat cable, disconnecting that flat cable. There are 2 screws with normal Philip head, and other 3 screws, the one that holds the sensor, are they have a I think the T6 in this case, the T6 screwdriver. Coming back to the calibration without tool, there are people that are talking about to calibrate recalibrate your sensor by signing the screws and counting the spins of each screw in order that when you put the screw back to put it in the same place with the same spins. This is a okay way to do it, but definitely is not the you're not gonna get your sensor in the extremely precise position as the manufacturer does. So what I used to do in the past, it was to, when I had to replace sensors, I was replacing the sensor, putting back the screws, yeah, keeping the more or less the position of the screw, and then sending the camera to Canon to ask for sensor calibration. Definitely this way is way cheaper than sending the camera to Canon and require a complete replacement of the image sensor. All right, so we've got our sensor out. For those that need to replace the sensor, this is the way to do it. When you take the springs out, be careful not to drop them especially into the shutter unit. Okay, so the next step is this little driver that sits on the right side of the camera. This is still a power. It's a power unit that does few things. One of it is to power the ultrasonic, the shake wave or whatever they call it, of the sensor dust cleaner. And also in the bottom side there is a switch that cuts off the power uh, on the camera every time when you open the battery door. So if you have um, let's say you have the camera powered and you open the door, the camera shuts off without showing you any message. Before taking out the screws from any electronic board, remember to disconnect any kind of old cables that connects with that board in order to avoid any damage. For instance, if you take the screws out and then you you forget to disconnect, you might damage the connection or the flat cable or something that connects with that board. So in order to take this little board out, we need to follow these steps. This screw it's a bit different than the other ones. Very carefully you have to take this part out, and every time you cross to the flat cables, just be very careful. As you can see, I'm not using any kind of hard pressure to this board. I think underneath there is a tiny double tape, and also this board on this is the switch, the power switch I was explaining you earlier for the battery door. So this might be damaged. In this case, it's okay. The camera works. I tested the camera. That's the battery connector. And yeah, pretty much that's it. Here on the top you have the spring for pushing the battery out when you open the battery door. Actually, when you release the hook that holds the battery. Okay, so the next step is to take the main power driver, main DC, called also DC-DC power. Again, remember to disconnect all the cables, all the connections, all the flats before taking the screws out. On this board you have also the flash power. So if you have problems with your flash and once you check the flash state that stays on the top of the camera, this might be the cause. The power unit might be partially damaged, and that might be the reason why you don't have light flashing. The flash is not flashing on the camera. So I'm taking the screws now before taking everything out. So now the power board is free. So the next step is to take off the mirror box, but before taking the mirror box we need to take this bottom plate with this bottom plate is for not also for helping for holding the mirror box, but also for the tripod screw. So if you have a damaged screw, or in some other cases happen that the screw of the tripod gets snapped in and remains inside of the camera part, this part you can replace by taking this part. So once you reach this point, actually you can skip some steps. If you want to replace only this part, you can skip some steps from this tutorial and get straight to the bottom plate. Okay, so now I'm taking the last screws for releasing the mirror box. There are 4 screws here. These screws are all the same. Okay, so once the screws are out, we have actually 2 options to take the frame out. As you can see, the frame doesn't come off because it's touching somewhere into the viewfinder. You either take the viewfinder out and then you take your middle frame, but I found that by pushing from this side, as you can see, the middle frame, it's free. Release carefully this flat cable and voila. So now we reach the If you have a damaged middle frame, this is the way to do it. Unfortunately, this is plastic, but it's a entry level camera. All right, so finally we got to the last part of the camera. So next step will be to take off the shutter unit. In order to take the shutter unit, you have to disconnect this spring that sits on the mirror. I'm trying to see if I can get a better view for this. Very carefully you have to unload that spring, as you can see, and now we can take to disassemble our shutter unit. So if you have problems with your shutter unit, this is the way to do it. Definitely you have to make all the steps we had so far in order to reach this point. Probably something like the power unit and the other boards that are probably are not necessary to take them out. The power unit and the second power to reach this point. But anyway, the idea of this video is to show you completely how to disassemble parts. Then each one of you, by watching this video or by having their own experience in repairing, you might understand which parts are necessary to disassemble or not to reach certain points. So this is the shutter unit. There are two ways why the shutter fails. One is for its own lifetime, and the second, in some cases, happens that the shutter blades are broken. So in that case, you can repair it. So what I was trying to show you here is where the spring loading, that spring that stays on the shutter, has to stay. So you have to grab it and put it back in this place. This is the mirror. So I was saying about the shutter replacing the blades in case the shutter before its lifespan the blades are failing. You can replace the blades. Okay, so the next step I am taking, this is the last part of this tutorial. I am taking out the viewfinder. So if you ever need to replace your viewfinder, this is the way to do it. Okay, so this is the last screw for releasing the viewfinder. Okay, so now the viewfinder is off. So the last part is the mirror box. Usually you can find this part to buy as it is, but for those who wants to replace a few things over here, something like the lens connection, it's you need to take the two screws from the front. Actually, you might need to take the autofocus system first and then reaching the lens connection. So yeah, pretty much that's it. Before closing this video, I'm going to show you how to take the focusing screen out, but definitely you don't need to disassemble your camera in order to reach the focusing screen. I do recommend to use a plastic tool here, otherwise it's very easy to scratch your focusing screen. You have to be very careful over here. Before closing this tutorial, this video, I would like to thank everyone that subscribed to my channel, and this channel definitely it's growing. I'm gonna try to put more content regarding camera repairs. For those who are new to this channel, I will really appreciate to subscribe, and if you guys have a question, please use the comment section below and I will try to answer to everyone. And thank you for watching, and see you next time.